still look yellow. It's a high pony today, guys. I just kind of put my hair up because I wanted like a facelift. Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm Vanessa and this is Blended Together. If you guys are new here, welcome. Today I am finally gonna talk about why I am jaundice, meaning yellow. On every video that I post, I always get comments on if I'm checking my liver and stuff like that, and I am okay. So I'm gonna just go ahead and talk about why I'm yellow. So the reason why I'm yellow is because I have a type of hemolytic anemia that is called hereditary spherocytosis. First, I want to talk about what is hereditary spherocytosis because some of you might not even know what it is. So I want to talk about what it is first and why certain things happen to me and later on in the story. So I'm just going to kind of go ahead and go over some of these questions that you guys may have. Hereditary spherocytosis is an inherited disease. So they say that it could be genetically passed on from my mom or my dad, but we don't know which side it came from, but most likely it came from my mom's side of the family. And they do say that it is hereditary. That's why it's called hereditary spherocytosis, but none of my parents have it and none of their parents have it, and so we do not know where it came from. Hereditary spherocytosis is caused by changes and mutations in one or more genes that affect the membrane, and I honestly think that that's just what happened, that one of my genes was affected, and that's why I ended up with hereditary spherocytosis. HS is caused by genetic changes in 5 different genes, and these are the genes that are affected. Signs and symptoms can range from mild to severe and may include pale skin, fatigue, anemia, jaundice, gallstones, and or enlargement of the spleen. So from my understanding, HS is why it's called spherocytosis is because your red cells, how it's shaped like a little plate and it has an indent in the middle. Mine doesn't have that. Mine is kind of more like a sphere, more like a ball. So I'll put a picture of what it's supposed to look like, and this is what my red cells look like. My blood was trying to be cleaned out by my spleen, and my spleen was just pretty much destroying all my red blood cells, which depleted my blood, and I was getting really sick. And another thing too is that your white blood cells were attacking my red cells, thinking that it was a foreign body or a foreign thing in my bloodstream, like an infection or something. So my white blood cells and my spleen were both destroying my red cells. I had no blood pretty much. The questions would be, does hereditary spherocytosis affect the immune system? In a healthy body, the spleen starts the immune system's response to infections. The spleen filters bacteria and damaged cells, how I had said, out of the bloodstream. Because they removed my spleen as a child, I did get sick very easily and for a very long time. I remember one time I had like the cold or the flu, I think for like a month. It was a long time, and so whenever I would get sick, I would get like hardcore sick, like to the point I had to go sometimes to the hospital to get checked out, make sure that it's nothing else serious, and to see how my blood counts are doing. There are some times where I had to actually stay overnight a couple of days at the hospital because I was so sick and they were afraid that my blood counts would keep dropping too fast. I didn't really find out, my mom found out, but from my understanding, from what my mom told me and what family members told me, was that obviously I was a little jaundiced when I was born, but it didn't seem off to the doctors at all because it is pretty normal for newborns to have a little bit of jaundice when they're born. And mine was pretty normal, my blood work was pretty normal, and so my mom took me home. And I do have some pictures, as you guys can see in this picture. I am pretty yellow. My mom didn't really notice there was anything wrong with me until I was about 5 months old. 5 or 6 months old, and my mom knew something in her gut that was wrong. Like, she just knew something was wrong. I was not really getting up to eat anymore. I wasn't really crying. I would sleep almost all day, all night, and she would actually have to like wake me up and shake me to like eat. And even then I would take a couple of sips and then just stop eating. So I'm the youngest, so she had already been through this 5 other times. So I was the last baby, and she knew something was completely different with me, and my dad was just kind of like, no, there's probably nothing wrong with her. But just one night I just would not wake up. I would not wake up, and my mom freaked out, and like I was just very lethargic and not wanting to eat or anything, and I hadn't ate like all day that day, or for I don't know, but that's pretty much what happened. My mom took me to the emergency room, and so they ended up drawing blood, and once they got the results, my dad said that they literally ran to my mom and was like yanked me out of her arms and were like, we need to take care of her. We need to take her now. We need you to come follow us. And like my mom was like, what's going on? My dad was freaking out. They're both Spanish speakers, and this doctor was an Australian doctor, so she also had an accent as well. So they were just kind of like, we don't know what's going on, but like, do something, help me. All my mom kept saying was help, because she didn't know what else to say. She didn't know much English, and my dad didn't either. Once they took me, they put me in like an incubator. This is what an incubator is, and it kind of keeps you warm with the lights and everything, and that kind of helps with jaundice. And they covered my eyes. I was not crying very much. They got IVs in me, and I still wasn't crying. That's when they kind of explained to them, once they got me situated, like, this is what's happening, this is what your daughter has, and we need to give her blood like now. And my mom and my dad were like, why does she need blood? Like, she's not losing blood. So they were kind of like, what is, they were very confused at first. And then from that point on, I was going to the children's hospital. Fast forward a couple of years, and around the age of 1 or 2 was when I actually got port put in. And at the same time, because of how I had mentioned that your body tries to keep up with cleaning out your bloodstream, my spleen actually enlarged a little bit. So it was getting to the point where if it kept growing or it kept getting enlarged, it could pretty much burst, pretty much bleed out and die. So from what my mom told me as well, is that when they went in, they put in a port, which they would give my blood transfusions from, instead of having to poke me on my arms and trying to find a vein. And I actually still have the scar. It's right here. I don't know if you guys can see, but all of these, this scar right here, it's a bunch of little pokies. So I still have my scar. In this picture that I'm gonna put in, you can kind of see where I had my port a little bit, but this is the only picture that I have that you can actually see my port. It's not very distinguished, but it's kind of there. This is the only picture I have. So when they went in to put in my port, they obviously took out my spleen. Can you live? Another question is, can you live without a spleen? Yes, obviously you can. You can survive without it. This is because the liver can take over many of the spleen's function. So that kind of explains a little bit why I'm a little jaundiced, a little bit yellow, is because my liver is the one that kind of takes over a little bit, and overworking your liver causes a little bit of jaundice and yellow appearance on your skin. They also took out my gallbladder and my appendix, because for some reason those were enlarged as well. I think because my spleen couldn't keep up with it, so other organs tried to keep up with it. So that's another reason why they ended up taking out my gallbladder, was because it caused a lot of gallstones, severe gallstones. So that's the reason why they took it out. And they noticed that my appendix was getting enlarged, slightly enlarged as well, progressively. So that's why they pretty much removed all those 3 organs. From the ages of like 2 to like 5 years old, I ended up having many blood transfusions. I do have some kind of memories, but I'm not gonna get into that unless you guys want me to talk about experience going through this as a child. But that could be for a whole different video, because I have a lot of stories. This is another picture of me in the hospital. I actually, this one was, I was in the cafeteria. That's little me right there. That same day, I just felt photogenic or something. I was on this picture on the giraffe. It was actually in one of the oncology hematology offices. I remember going to the hospital and get blood transfusions. By the age of, I'm gonna say around 4 or 5 is when they kind of pulled me away from having blood transfusions. I guess my body just kind of started to get a little bit used to it and was able to keep up with it. And it kind of sucks because when I do get sick, I kind of, you know, have to watch it. And so that was another reason why I was kind of on the really high risk when I got diagnosed with cancer. So I do have stage 3 colorectal cancer currently, and I just finished my treatment. If for some of you guys that are new here or are new watching this video, scary for me to go anywhere, especially right now through a pandemic and flu season. I couldn't go anywhere, and that's the main reason under my treatment I was on the high risk side. So some symptoms as an adult, growing up as well, past the age of 5, is just me being really tired. I remember I would literally fall asleep like anywhere, especially for school. Oh my goodness. I remember as soon as I got home, nap time. So that was my routine, was after preschool or kindergarten. I think all the way to like 3rd grade, I would go home and fall asleep because of how tired I was. Yeah, and now as an adult, I feel pretty fine. I mean, I think I feel pretty normal. Just sometimes, how I said, I do feel a little bit tired. That's what hereditary spherocytosis is. That's what I have, and that's why I'm yellow. This video kind of helped understand my blood disorder. I hope you guys give this video a thumbs up and go ahead and subscribe to my channel and follow me throughout my journey. And don't forget to live well, laugh often, and love much. Bye guys. Thanks.